Australians are a weird bunch of people when it comes to buying cars. I would say heartless, because we're pushing a certain type of car into extinction. I'm talking about the sub $20,000 hatch. This is a Suzuki Swift. This particular one isn't under 20 grand, but you can get a manual or automatic Suzuki Swift on the road for less than 20 grand. We're here to talk about the Series 2 Suzuki Swift. I'm going to take you through the usual 8 categories: design, price and features, ownership, practicality, fuel use, engine specs, what it's like to drive, and then right at the end, I'm going to tell you what I think. If you don't like having to watch all of me, and I don't blame you, it's all going to be laid out very nicely down here in the YouTube chapter markers, just underneath my belly here. And if you want to read my full written review, it's on carsguide.com.au, link in the description. But before you go, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like if you like this video, and press the bell button, because that will give you a little notification every time a new Cars Guide video turns up on the channel. I reckon, just between you and me, the Swift is one of the coolest looking cars on the road, and that's in any segment. The press release said that it's sexy with 3 X's in sexy. I don't like that, but I do like the Swift. They didn't spend too much money on this facelift. New lights, new bumper, new grille, and new alloy wheels. That's pretty much it.
There's something very important about the Swift's pricing. You can get an automatic Swift on the road for less than 20 grand. Of course you can, I hear you snort, but here's the thing. A few years ago, you could get heaps of hatches on the road for a lot less than that, but with Toyota suddenly getting an attack of the premium pricing and slapping ludicrous prices on the new Yaris and Hyundai axing the accent, the Swift has fewer rivals at this price. So basically, the affordable light hatch market is Picanto, Swift, and Chinese challenger with a British badge, the MG3. The Swift GL Navigator manual, a car almost nobody buys, is $18,990 drive away, with the auto adding just $1,000 to that at $19,990.
Here in the GL Navigator Plus, you actually get a little bit of extra stuff for your money. You get these really cool, actually quite racy seats with this cool cloth pattern on it. Staying with the racy theme, flat bottom steering wheel with leather. I don't think it's real leather, but that doesn't really matter. You get a 7-inch screen. Now, the software itself isn't that good, and this is in all the Suzukis, but it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You get air conditioning, here in the GL Navigator Plus, automatic, and you get a reversing camera and rear parking sensors, so that's quite a lot of stuff for the money. So this little thing and the camera up there gives you forward AEB, forward collision warning, and a bunch of other handy stuff. Plus you get reverse cross traffic alert and blind spot monitoring, both of which are new for Series 2. The Swift's upright look delivers a ton of space in a really small footprint. So here in the front, it's like you've got tons of space. I mean, even though it's quite narrow, you've got plenty of shoulder and elbow room. I mean, you're going to clash elbows eventually, but that's only if you're both doing the chicken dance. Lots of headroom too. I mean, I think I've got, that's a handspan of headroom. That is tons of headroom. There's no armrest though, which is kind of annoying. You do get 2 cup holders here, but it's a little bit awkward getting it around the shifter and under the air conditioning. There is somewhere to put your phone. You've got USB, 12 volt. The doors have bottle holders and pockets, and there's another cup holder here for the rear seats. And the glove box, traditionally small cars have tiny glove boxes, but this one actually fits things in it. Here in the back, the headroom theme continues. You've still got tons of headroom, although not as much as the front. I'm 180 centimetres tall. I'm sitting behind my driving position, and I've actually got quite a lot of room. I reckon this is probably the best in the segment that I can think of off the top of my head. Apart from that, it's a little bit grim back here. There's no armrest. You've only got this 1 cup holder here, and you do have bottle holders in the doors, but they're a little bit tight. The seat's pretty flat, but it's comfortable enough. You could do a reasonably long journey in this, but yeah, I mean, it's a small car. The boot,
Well, it's not very big. It's 242 litres, which is one of the smallest in the class. If you get the Swift Sport, you get a bit more with 265 litres, but then you lose the Space Saver Spare.
a couple of little problems. The floor obviously doesn't go flat, as you can probably see, and the loading lip is a good 15 centimetres above the floor. But, you know, small cars, compromises. In the Swift range, there are 3 engines. In the GL Navigator and Navigator Plus, you get this, the 1.2 litre 4-cylinder. It's a little bit dinky, as are the power and torque figures, but thankfully the Swift doesn't weigh much more than a bowl of porridge, so it actually works out okay. Up to the $25,000-ish GLX Turbo, you get a 1 litre turbocharged engine. That's got this much power and torque, which is more. And then you get up to the Swift Sport, which has got lots more power and torque from its 1.4 litre turbo. In the GL Navigator, you get the 1.2 litre and a choice of a 5-speed manual or a CVT auto. The Navigator Plus, the auto comes standard, and in the GLX Turbo, the auto comes standard as well. Now, as I just said with gritted teeth, it has a CVT. I don't like them, I never have liked them, but this one might not be too bad. But if you go for the Swift Sport, which is a lot more money with more power and torque, it has a 6-speed auto, which is a proper auto, or a 6-speed manual. So what does it cost to own? Well, you start off with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty. That's pretty good. Pretty much everyone else offers that except Kia, which offers 7 years. Now, the cap price servicing regime. On the 1.2, they want to see you every 12 months and 15,000 kilometres. You pay somewhere between $239 and $329 for most of the services. They sort of seem to dip between them as you go, and it lasts for 7 years. The Turbo, this is where they get you. It's 12 months, 10,000 kilometres. So if you go over the sort of average Australian, you're going to be there more than once a year. It's going to cost you a bit more. So the services, again, they're about $239, $329, only last for 5 years, and some of the services are a little bit more expensive than the 1.2. So think about that if you're tossing up between them. I quite like small hatches. In fact, my first, second, third, actually 4 through to 8, 12th, 13th, 22nd and 23rd cars were small hatches, so I do like them. One of them was even a Suzuki, but it was such an embarrassing Suzuki, I'm not going to tell you which one it is. That's taken 25 years to get over the shame of that, and I'm still not there. This Suzuki is not shameful. I really like the Swift. I like all of the Swifts. This one though, you got to know a few things. It's really slow. Like 1.2 litres is not a lot, and it's, shall we say, understressed. There's not a lot of power, and the CVT, while I don't like them, they're good in these cars because they're all about getting as much out of what torque there is available to get the thing moving. So while I'm not going to jump from the rooftops telling you how great it is, it's actually all right. The handling's really good. I like the way Suzukis are set up. They ride quite well. They don't get upset by bumps. You know, some cheap cars ride really poorly, but this rides really nice and flat and doesn't get upset by speed humps or by just, you know, bumping around. It's really quite nice. It's very, very calming. Road noise, there's a little bit of it, particularly out on the freeway. The tyres, even though they're like that, they do make a little bit of racket, but it's nothing that even the tinny stereo can't drown out. And I think I don't like, and it's really a small thing, the steering is a little bit slow, so you do tend to have to steer a bit more than you might expect from a city car. So that's the 1.2. It's pretty good, I don't mind it. The 1 litre GLX, now, my colleague Matthew Campbell appeared in the dead of night and said, you need to drive this car, and I drove the 1 litre turbo. It's got more power, and critically it's got more torque, so it's just a more relaxed car to drive. It's very quiet. He and I had a long chat about it, because, you know, that's what you do, you talk about 1 litre turbo 3-cylinder engines at length. And we both agreed that that is a really, really good engine. Is it worth $4,000 more than this one? I don't know, because then you're getting quite close to the Swift Sport. Now, the Swift Sport is a lot of fun, but it's very expensive. So unless you're really wanting something sporty, that's the car you'd go for. But I reckon, thinking about it, even though I really like that 1 litre turbo, I just, in my head, I can't justify the extra expense when you can get a 1 litre turbocharged Kia Picanto for the same price as the cheapest Swift. And you can also get a Kia Rio GT line for about the same or possibly slightly less than the GLX Turbo. And that's probably a really good point to make. I think the Turbo and this 1.2 litre, they drive pretty much the same. It's just that the turbo's a little bit quicker and possibly a little bit more relaxed. That's kind of it. So you've got to answer the question, is that worth the extra money? In my hands, the dashboard is telling me that I'm using 6.5 litres per 100k. That's not terrible. I reckon if you're within 30% of the claim figure, you're doing okay. But the turbo, I reckon it uses a little bit less. It certainly has when I've driven it in the past. But it's not enough for you to go, oh yes, I'm going to get my $3,000 back extra for the turbo. You can buy a Swift for under 20 grand, but I don't think they're the ones to go for. For another 1,500 bucks, you're in this, the Navigator Plus. It's got heaps more safety gear, just a bit nicer inside. I think it's the better car. It's also, and I hate to say this, probably a better buy than the GLX Turbo. Even though it's got a much better engine, I think this is cheaper to own, cheaper to run, cheaper to buy up front, cheaper, but it's just as good.